All right, moving it along. 18th overall, we have another double up pick. That's right. At 9, you have the Detroit Red Wings taking Oliver Moore.
Tell you, done. Next question. Tom Willander.
All right, done and done.
So wait, we could talk about it, though, because I actually think this could be number one. Like, so Willander was a relative unknown coming into this season. What?
Who would he play with?
He didn't play with him, but
no, I said who would he play with in Detroit?
He would, yeah, a little guy named Willander. So same, they both are rogle guys. One's Willander, one's Willander. So potentially to have a future second pair of Willander and Willander is hilarious. But number 2, though, Willander like comes into this year, this draft season, as like a relative unknown. So again, the first tournament that kicks off like the draft year for all these prospects is the Hlinka Gretzky. That's the first tournament after like this draft. So that's the first time that there's a tournament, an international tournament where all these players, this is who you're focusing on for the draft. And I don't even remember if Willander made that fucking team last year. And if he did, he was not good. So like this was a guy that was very much an unknown prospect. And this year, every single game for Rogle in the J20 or the J18 in that junior league has been unbelievable for them. And since then, every international tournament, he's been one of their 3 best defensemen. So we talked about Axel Sandin Pellikka, his mobility, the skating. Willander is just as good skating. Like the mobility, the 4-way mobility, left to right, like east, west, north, south, does not matter. He creates separation with ease. He is the thing with him that made him that unknown is he's got all the tools in the world, but he's just so conservative that he doesn't make a whole lot of plays it's not going to jump out at you, right? Like he's not like Sandin Pellikka who has the puck in his own zone and just does like one shoulder, one head fake and will break your ankles and will skate the puck out himself. He's either just going to make that first pass or he will beat you because the skating's so good. And while it's not necessarily flashy, it's either just as, if not more effective. But that allows him to make play like mistake-free hockey. And when you're looking at the Detroit Red Wings system, like they're looking for that, like a next level guy on that right side of the fence, because on the left side, they're fine. They've got plenty of guys. They've also the right, they have Sider, but like after that right shot defenseman, like it really tails off for them. So I actually think like number 1, Willander not only solidified himself as like a decent first round pick if you're going to like take a swing on a defenseman there, but I think there's so much upside just with his foundation, the tools, the skating, and like not only that, but he is excellent defensively. So I actually think this is number 1 realistic. I actually think it's pretty likely that they do take a swing at Willander. And I think he's solidified himself as a firm first round pick because he's got the size, he defends well, he's a right shot defenseman, which is a luxury anywhere in the draft. And I don't see a world where he's not a legit impact NHL defenseman. So I actually do think that this is a realistic pick in a like this is about as high as I would go with him, just because again, he has all the tools in the world. He just doesn't really like test them as often as you want him to. But even then, even with that, like he's the top scoring defenseman in that system. He was one of the top scoring defensemen in the J20 without really trying to like test the tools that he's got at his disposal. So I think if you're the Red Wings and you leave that first round, you've got Oliver Moore and Willander, you're laughing. And again, the idea of a future second pair of Willander and Willander is hilarious. They're both good defensively. It can be like a pair that has offensive upside, but can be a shutdown pair. Like I think that's a home run.
That's just so fun. That is so much fun. And it's such a Stevie Y move.
I love it. How could you not do that? I actually think, and again, like Stevie Y loves his Swedes, loves the rogle system. So then, like, let's say Willander also pans out as a top 4 defenseman. Their top 4 is Edvinsson, Frölunda, Sider, Rogle, Willander, Rogle, Willander, rogle. Like he fucking loves his Swedish defenseman. They have another one too. So like fucking like
Lidstrom
half
is
their
just
forwards, half
smiling
their
ear
fucking
to
forwards
ear.
are from Sweden too. Yeah.
God,
And again, I
brilliant.
think if they left with more and they got Willander in the first round, you might win the first round. Because again, I think Willander, like I think there's upside, but he's such a fucking safe. Like he is the perfect guy that you admit like he's gonna be our number 4.
Can you see him being criticized there too by people like in the media? Can you see it being a Sider-esque like, oh, they reached for Willander? Like, why?
No, because like at the time, well, yes and no. So like at the time, there were a whole lot of people that didn't see a whole lot of Sider that was like, man, you're just passing up on so much upside with other players. And you definitely pass up on upside if you take Willander there. But like if you're Detroit, you've got plenty of upside in that fucking system. Yeah. And if you take more, you're betting on that upside too. You're betting on Oliver Moore being like a poor man's version of Dylan Larkin, plus all the tools or all the other guys around him. But like, I think Willander like fits a need there. And again, I do think there's legit potential upside. Again, like it's not like something where you're sitting there saying, yeah, no, like he just hasn't tried it. Like he hasn't, like we haven't seen it yet, but it's there, like it's coming. It's still like a question, but to me, he's just like, he's a number 4 defenseman that if you need to be a shutdown guy that can chip in offensively, it's not like a shutdown guy where like he's a liability trying to break that puck out, because I think he actually, my buddy Lassie Allenen, who does all the tracking data for elite prospects in Europe, I think he has the highest completion rate in terms of like first pass, like pass attempts. Like he connects on like 97% of his passes. Okay. So he just doesn't fuck up. Like it's crazy. Again, it's mistake-free hockey if it's just a little bit conservative. So yeah. I do think that Willander there is a legit possibility, fairly likely, and a really good pick. Like that's, and again, that's as high as I take.
Yeah, that's fair.